Our weed of the week is Foxtail Barley.
Foxtail barley is just a short-lived perennial weed, doesn't have rhizomes or anything like that. But boy, this has been a tough weed here for the last few years, kind of spreading across the United States. We're going to talk today about how to solve this problem on your farm.
You know, some of the toughest areas, Brian, have been reduced till, no-till, pastures, roadside ditches, these kinds of places where we're not doing any tillage. If we just did some tillage, Brian, we'd probably stop our weed of the week.
Hey, don't forget about sodic and saline soils. This weed is a little bit tolerant to those soils as well. Now, let me start in pastures. Okay, a lot of times what we talk about is, let's forget about herbicides entirely for a second. The biggest thing, and just like Darren mentioned, in some of these tough areas, well, what is it? It's lack of crop canopy. So if you have this problem in your pasture, that tells me, hey, maybe there isn't the right fertility program out there. Maybe we need to move to rotational grazing and not overgraze that pasture. If you let that pasture compete, well, it has a pretty good chance against the foxtail barley. But once it gets behind the 8-ball in the spring, well, then you're going to have a problem.
Well, same thing in our crop fields too. If we're raising a good, healthy crop and we're keeping the soil in balance, like you mentioned, we get into a salty or sodic area, we're going to have trouble growing crop out there, and that's a problem.
Okay, so in terms of herbicides to control foxtail barley, Roundup is excellent on it, but just understand it's going to take more Roundup than it would to kill foxtail, for example, just regular foxtail, green or yellow. You're going to need the full labeled rate, and then you'll do pretty well on this particular weed. Now, out in pastures, it gets tough because, yes, we've got plateau and pastora, and I mean, there are a few grass killers in pastures for certain grasses, but boy, they're not going to do a whole lot on this perennial foxtail barley. So unfortunately, if you had a pasture and you had a major problem, I'd suggest using Roundup, wipe out the pasture and start over. If you have this weed in soybeans, start with a good pre. Use one of the yellows, especially trifluralin, sonalan, or prowl. Follow post-emerge with one of the grass killers. Select Max or something with clethodim in it's probably the best. In corn, I'd probably start with one of the group 15s, then follow post-emerge with Accent unless you have the ability to use Roundup or Liberty in your crop. And then finally in wheat, start with something like Prepare, follow post-emerge with Axial, or maybe it's Everest. I mean, you've got some options, but just understand there's nothing that is fantastic on this weed in wheat.
That's all the time we have for this week's weed, but Iron Talk is coming up next.